Hey, it's Aaron from GameEnthus.com, and in this video I'll be reviewing a trick-or-treat taking card game, trick-taking card game with the trick-or-treat thing, called Best Candy on the Block. In Best Candy on the Block, players are going to be playing tricks in order to try to win them, to get potentially their favorite candy, and trying to stay clear of prank cards. It's a game that kind of scales from just the core of winning tricks to being a little more strategic in how you win tricks and which ones you do, which ones you don't. Let me show you how it works. So, different types of cards. So you have the regular cards here, like this is a 2 that has 2 suits. It's not quite Three Musketeers, but it's a marshmallow chocolate. This number 6 happens to be a chocolate coconut. And then this 1 is a hard candy gummy combination. And this is a sour gummy worm, but the lemon symbolizing sourness and the gummy symbolizing, wait for it, gummies. So these are just regular cards that players will put out, and whoever starts off the leading suit, other players are trying to get a higher number to win that trick. That's pretty straightforward. Now, some of this stuff, I'm going to be honest with you, I might be mixing some of it up. I might have some cards that belong to one of the expansions somehow just happen to have been laid out in front of me on this table. That's no one's fault but my own. Going along with the theme of candy and trick-or-treating and all that stuff, which is the game's theme, we also have cards that have nothing, like pennies, pencils are worth 0, because these are things that kids typically don't want. Pennies and pencils should not be considered the best candy in the block for one reason only. They're not candy. But they're worth 0 and they actually have no particular suit at all. You also have cards like the dad tax. Let's be real. The mom and dad tax is something that my wife and I tell our kids all the time. We want a bite or a sip or something they have that we probably purchased. But I say dad tax probably 3 or 4 times a week, you know, and the kids know what's coming. They usually prepare and try to have some provisions ready for their dear old dad. Anyway, the dad tax says, mind you, it's 0 and has no actual suit or flavor. The dad tax. After resolving this trick, before any other player takes a card from it, take 1 card from this trick to your personal stash. I like that. And then we have the mom veto, which says, after resolving this trick, all other cards the winner would take into their personal stash are discarded to the bottom of the leftover stash. And then there's also prank cards. So these kind of work similarly, where prank cards can just be played at any time. I guess out of spite, really, because you're playing it because whoever has the prank card, however many prank cards you have at the end of the round, you get -1 point. So you don't want to have a prank card. You can do a prank card just to be spiteful. Like, you're not going to win this trick, so you just put a prank card out there just to make sure that whoever does win it ends up losing a point. It's pretty vicious. And they say the same thing. So it says, prank, the leader of the next trick is the player to the right of the trick's winner. And it reiterates -1 point. So banana peels and not quite Barbasol shaving cream. Those are some of the cards that are going to be in this deck. I'm going to show you how a couple of turns might work. Let me introduce our players. Player 1 is the PSP UMD for Metal Gear Acid 2 that I didn't really appreciate when it came out, but now, I don't know why, now I started playing board games and deck building, things like that are of interest to me now. I like that game. Player number 2 is Castlevania The Adventure, which is the first Castlevania game for the Game Boy that I do recall when it came out was awesome. Although people now talk about how garbage it is, but back in 89 or 90 when it came out, it was fantastic. Yes, you had the motion blur and everything else, but it was way better than the Tiger Electronics Castlevania game that I also had at some point. Maybe it's the Castlevania Adventure. I don't know, it's the first one. And then the third player is Raiders Rumble Boxing for the Game Boy Color, which I believe had a rumble feature because why wouldn't it? Hence the bulkiness and the space for the battery. So those are our players. Every player has 13 cards. The rest of the deck can just be put off to the side because you're not going to really need it. Also, I want to call back to what I said earlier. The rest of the deck is called the leftover stash. So the mom veto card that I mentioned earlier, you basically would take those cards out of the game. I assumed that was clear, but let's make it clearer. Okay, so let's say that player 1 dealt the card, so the player to the left of player 1 would be player 3, so player 3 is going to begin. So player 3 is going to take a look at all of their cards. Let's see, they want to put everything out that's high. First, they're going to put out this 9 that are gummy butterflies or gummy moths. That's interesting looking. So they're sour as well. But as you can see, it also has the pumpkin icon. Player 2 is going to take their turn. See what player 2 has. Now keep in mind, you don't have to match all of the different flavors and things. You just have to match one. So any card I have that's higher than 9 that also has one of these icons, I could play and potentially win this trick. Or maybe not. Yeah. So I'm going to be spiteful and put out a prank card. What the prank card does is it makes other people not want to win that trick because you'll lose a point. Every trick at the end of a round is worth 1 point. Something I should have mentioned earlier is when the game begins, you would set the target score. So a short game would be about 13 points, medium game would be 22 points, and a long game would be 31 points. And in the actual rules, there's an estimate for how many hands that might take to get up that high. Player 1 definitely does not really want to win this trick because they're going to lose a point for it anyway. They'd rather player 3 win it as they started it. Now let's see if player 1 actually has something that they could play to win it. And they really don't actually. So they're just going to play this 1. That is somehow a Neapolitan ice cream, apple, chocolate. Yeah, I don't get that either, but it's Halloween. You know, who's judging? So at this point, you need to determine who the winner of this trick is. And how to determine is the player who played the highest card ranked above 0. You can't win with a 0, as far as I know, is the winner of the trick. Also, if the last card plays wins a tie. So had I put out a 9 that had any one of these elements, the player 1 that put out a 9 had only one of these elements in the starting card, the last card that played breaks ties. If no cards are ranked above 0 on the trick, the winner is determined by the first player to play a prank card or the last person to play a 0 card. Like one of these. The winner of the trick takes all the cards from the trick, these 3, into their personal stash and is the leader of the next trick. Unless one or more prank cards were played during the trick. In that case, the leader for the next trick is the player to the right of the winner of the trick. So in terms of the advanced game, one interesting rule is I mentioned earlier that at the end of the round, once players have all the 13 cards have been played and there's 13 tricks that have been divvied up amongst all the players would always score 1 point for every book they had. However, in the advanced rules, it's interesting. The player who wins the most tricks in that round gets no points for their tricks, which is an interesting rule. I get it. It's supposed to not allow any individual player to just get a lead and just run away, but it is interesting. It's mitigated somewhat by the favorite flavors. So each player at the beginning of each round would get 3 flavor cards. So these are flavor cards. There's a flavor card for different colors. So these 3 actually just correspond to the different colors on the cards. So blue, purple, orange, and they work similarly to the way the actual flavors themselves work. So the gummy flavor, the nut flavor, coconut, well, actually it's green too. And then Halloween flavors. It's not pumpkin, it's Halloween flavor. Or jack-o'-lantern flavor. It doesn't say that at all, I'm just making that up. So each player at the beginning of the round would have their hand already, and they would get 3 flavor cards. This is all happening in secret. I'm just laying them out so you can see it. Let's say player 2 has the triple flavor card, nut flavor, and then blue rank. They would take a look at their hand and determine what their favorite's going to be. So based on this would not work out well for them at all. Actually, this would be terrible for them. So let's say they have this one. Oh, they have two peanuts here. Let's say they made peanut. Let me make sure I can show you. So they have a peanut 11 right here, and they have a peanut right here. Oh, sorry, and a peanut 12. Forgive me. So they have 3 cards that have peanuts on them. So in addition to getting 1 point per trick that you won at the end of the round, assuming you're playing with the rule that for the advanced game that says you don't get that point if you have the most, because you're being greedy. You get 1 point for each trick, so you know the most that you won, and then you get 1 point for each card that has your favorite flavor. So you pick one and then put the rest away. See, player 3, what would they do? Okay, so they have orange flavor, which is interesting. So orange means the color of the number. Orange isn't going to appear as a flavor on here. It's the actual color of the number. So they have 3 oranges. They have a 4, they have a 5, and they have a 10. Corresponds to that. Purple, they have a 2, that's purple, and a 5 that's purple. And then they have gummy. And I think they only have 1 gummy. So their best bet would be trying to win tricks, that have orange. If you're playing with 5 players, there is an additional set of cards you can put in for the king size expansion. So this is used if you're playing with 5 players, and all of these cards actually have flavor text on them. Like this one says, pin the tail on the cat. This trick, the card ranked closest to 7 wins. Ties go to the last played card. So this mixes it up a lot. This says grab bags. Cards played to this trick after this one must be chosen at random. So these really mix it up. Bobbing for apples. They don't do this anymore, but they did in my day. We know too much now. Anyway, bobbing for apples. This trick, the lowest ranked card wins instead of the highest, excluding non-flavor or prank cards. So yeah, putting this in mixes it up a lot for 5 players. You don't have to play with the flavor text. That's up to you. You can put these cards in and make sure they're shuffled well. And there's also a favorite flavor for king as well. So you got to make sure you put those cards into the deck. Otherwise, you'd never get anything because you wouldn't have any cards that have this on it. And then there's regular cards that also just have a lot of flavor text on them that have some elements about known allergens. So like this one is a peanut, known allergens. Before determining the winner of this trick, determine the most common suit among the cards played. You break ties. All cards containing the most common suit are discarded to the bottom of the leftover stash. So this one is super sours. If this card matches your favorite flavor, it's worth 2 bonus points. Otherwise, it's worth -2. Okay, and I will give you my final thoughts on this game. So that was Best Candy in the Block from Jon Baron Games. I'm gonna tell you my thoughts. I like this game. Spades is a game that we play not frequently, but we have played a good amount of spades in my household and introduced the family to this game, and we had a good time. I do think that having it not have a team structure definitely works out to a benefit, and we did play with the favorites in the game, meaning we were trying to go for different flavors and things like that. I had some reservations about the whole rule about greed. I do like the idea of not allowing a player to just get a lead and just win from the beginning to the end, because that doesn't always make for an enjoyable experience for everybody. That is interesting to me, but the game is kind of structured for you to put in the things that you want. Like if you want to play with 5 players, you're playing with the crown cards. That's just what it is. But you don't have to play with the favorites. You don't have to play with the rule about getting a tummy ache by being greedy because you ate too much candy. You can do what you want. I would suggest you try it, see if you like it. My assumption of that rule was that it would make it it might leave players at a disadvantage, because if the same person isn't really winning throughout the whole game, if you're only counting the score of getting your favorites, that leaves a game of that leaves a fairly random game even more random, because you have no control over what cards you get. So even if you have high numbers, if you're winning tricks without winning cards that have your favorite on them, that could leave you at a weird disadvantage. So I don't know. I'm saying a lot of words right now that might not make a lot of sense. All in all, best can in the block. We enjoyed it. It's fun. I recommend this game to you if you like trick-taking games. I think it offers a good amount of variety for players of varied skill levels and experience. Anyway, that's going to do it for me. Thank you for watching. Take care, stay safe, and be blessed.